On Talk TV. We're now going to jump over the little pond we like to call the Atlantic, or the Atlantic that we like to call the little pond, to our very own Prof. JC, Prof. John Christopher Buer, White House correspondent with Real Political News. And nice to see you, Prof. JC. There's a lot to get through today. Not least the changing fortunes of the Democratic Party. We ended our conversation last week, and it was a fascinating thing. You know, I went back to listen to some of our exchanges about a month ago, and everything looked doom and gloom for the Democratic Party. Not so much now. It looks like the midterms are not going to be the bonanza that the Republican Party thought they were going to be. What do you put the changing fortunes of the Democratic Party down to?
Well, Rob, I think President Biden must have watched your show because the last two nights, as we say in America, he's really been out there on a stem winder. He really has been out there stumping, putting his political hat on, really going out and nailing the MAGA Republicans, going after Trump, literally going after him in front of the Independence Hall in Philadelphia. Now, he's getting a lot of flack from that, but he's really got some, as I said, this has given some real spring in his step, and he feels like he can do it. And this election is about saving America and saving the Americans' destruction. And he must have been watching because he learned a lesson that you can win some primaries, you can get some energy going. And Joe Biden is basically, as you heard, the mouse that roared. He's the Joe that roared, and he's been roaring up a flame, especially in Pennsylvania, which is a huge state.
Prof. JC, I hear the language that you use there. This is an election about saving America from destruction. But, some people here and other people will argue that sort of language, that sort of inflammatory language, if you like, doesn't help civilize the nature of the debate in a country that's, lit the world like yours, a beacon on a hill, where the starting point is to believe that both sides on the political aisle are people of goodwill. And, I wonder, what do you mean by, the Democratic Party or Democrats winning or maintaining some control over the Congress is going to save America from destruction? Help me understand that better.
Because as Joe Biden called out, the MAGA Republicans do not care about the Constitution. They do not care about women's rights. They do not care about gay rights. They do not care about equal rights. They are full bent to go out and destroy the human rights of our country that we've built over for 46 years. Mm-hmm. And I think amazingly, there are rock ribbed Republicans, and I know General Eisenhower, Dwight D. Eisenhower's granddaughter very well. Ike was a great Republican. Ronald Reagan cared about this country. Richard Nixon never disparaged this country, but we've had a president for 4 years that has gone after this institution of the federal government and has literally gone on a tear. And God knows what he did with those documents, if he made copies and where they ended up, why he took them, and who paid him for them. Well, and that's maybe inflammatory to some, but it's a reality check, Rob. We must look at it. And you've got your own issues on your side of the pond.
Yeah, but you're here to advise us on your side of it.
That's right. We're all equal.
To give us your perspective on it. Look, I mean, the difficulty is, I suppose, is that where does the response come from? Where does the civility in the conversation come? If the starting point is that everybody that voted for Donald Trump must be fundamentally anti-constitutional, must hate their country, and must be a traitor to democracy. There were millions of people across your country who voted for him. Do you say that about every single one of them that voted for Donald Trump that's a MAGA supporter?
No, absolutely not. And some of them are very, very good friends, and I respect their ideology. But this is not about that. This is about people who went into the Capitol, which was basically our Palace of Westminster, mm-hmm. and broke the windows, tried to hang Mike Pence, and ravaged our Constitution and our hall of legislation. And these people must be punished. And Trump inspired them. He said, "I'm going to go down there with you, and this is criminal." And now it doesn't stop. It's like this huge onion, which is being peeled as we speak. And I'm afraid the tears of remorse will come. And I think Joe Biden, I'm not a big fan of everything he does, but the last two night speeches showed his strength, his power, and his ability to connect to the audience. And he's going to take a beating. Fine. But at least with 60 days left to go, Rob, 60 days left to go, this country could be in a very, very, very bad state. Imagine all these Republicans heading up the committees.
Well, the difficulty is, you look at what happened, for example, to Liz Cheney, right, who decided that she was going to serve on the January 6th committee. And she lost in Wyoming by, I think, the greatest margin pretty much in congressional history to another Republican. What does that teach us about the Republican Party and the enduring and continued thirst for his leadership or people who espouse his policies?
Well, Liz Cheney lost in the primary. She did not lose in the general election. She didn't get that.
No, that's what I'm getting. Sure, but she lost by a massive margin to somebody.
Exactly,
right.
Because she was primaried, and Trump went after her, hook, line, and sinker. And the fact is, she said, "I'd rather go to a higher principle here to guarantee that Donald Trump will never sit behind that resolute desk again in my lifetime or in anyone's lifetime." Now, John, I think we've got to give her credit for that.
Now, Prof. JC, look, you clearly hate Trump. There's people who listen to me that have, both views. I
don't hate him. I hate what he's doing.
Right. Well, just let me finish. They cheer when he's had a policy that's been of some success. There's a lot of, I think it's fair to say, positive view in the Middle East, not least for his role in bringing peace in the Abraham Accords, for instance. Now, I'm just giving one policy example. It doesn't mean that you have to accept the buffet of other things he has done. But that's not so much my question as this. It's a throat clearing to ask this bigger question, right? Your nation is politically polarized as it's about to meet a massive, just as we are, cost of living crisis and head into recession. We need a body politic that's healthy in order best to respond to what we as a nation, just as you are facing. That's not going to be done successfully where people are at each other's throats, right? Where they cannot come alongside each other and agree. Now, as a professor of politics, with all of your history, with all of the people you know across Washington, and with your sense and grip of what's happening across the American political landscape, rather than talking just about Donald Trump and how bad he is and directing our fire at him, what's a solution in order to bring both sides together, in order to lift the quality of the conversation, to take us away from what appears to be, if you look at America every day as I do, the not just polarization, but the slide, it seems so often, into what appears to be a species of social civil war?
Well, I think we are in that civil war right now, unfortunately. And I think cooler heads must maintain. And I think we also must understand the reality of what's going on. And I'm talking about in the state elections, in the various gerrymandering issues that have happened, in the aspect of doing away with free and fair elections from the states, and without people who agree that they must accept the rule of law and accept the results of elections, we don't have a democracy. And that's what's gone on. And that's why they stormed the Capitol. And that's why Donald Trump said, and I quote, if I run and I'm president, I will pardon all of the January 6th individuals. That is outrageous, Bob.
I heard that, right? Okay. But, one of the things that we have in this country, I have to say, is that leading prosecutors are at political arm's length, right, from the political branches. And to many people, don't forget, I put the view of, as it were, the British listener, who are across the political spectrum. They're not as ideologically tribal as you guys across the pond. And they sort of see the prosecution of Donald Trump, and they don't see, for example, the prosecution of, let's say, Hunter Biden, or they see the suppression of that story. Let me finish. No, let me finish. Or they see, for example, the Hillary emails and that not being taken as seriously by the prosecutorial branches of government. When it appears that there is that disparity, how do you, and this is your mission just as it is anybody else that cares as you do deeply and has a love for the Constitution of the United States, how does that help to heal the nation, to bring both sides together?
Well, it depends where these individuals who think Hunter Biden and Hillary are equally as egregious as Donald Trump, perhaps they're listening and they're stovepiping and they're listening to the kind of messages that they feel good about. In America, We have a difficulty with the extreme right media. And I know you're a very fair individual. I watched you and I continue to watch you. Yes, I think you're the best. And we need to have a real honest debate, but not everyone gets that. And when you listen to the individuals who are Trumpians, they get it from the extreme right aspect of our media world.
Prof. JC, last word. Just before we had Tova Friedman, who's written a book. It's been a big book in America, and she's the youngest, I think, living survivor of Auschwitz. It's called The Daughter of Auschwitz. And she sat here in my studio moments ago and said, that she, my words pretty much, but expressed through the prism of her. She says, I still maintain and keep the light of hope. As we watch what's happening in America and the noise of the political debate across the political spectrum there, right? What hope do you have that we're going to return to some sort of civil conversation that, as Ruth Bader Ginsburg said, the symbol of America is not the power of the eagle, but the pendulum. What hope do you have, and where do we look for it moving forward?
We look for it in our leaders. We look for it in people like Liz Cheney. And we look for it in when Joe Biden gets up and is adamant about the Constitution in front of Independence Hall. I've known Joe Biden for 30 years. He's not a bad man. He made blunder. I'm not so crazy about his Afghanistan issues, but I have to tell you, he is not an evil man. And unfortunately, at this particular time, and Biden calls it an inflection point, I call it a perhaps a point of no return, but I'm thinking positively. We survived. Great Britain has survived. The United States will survive. We will continue to be friends, and we will continue to be allies, Robert. Mm-hmm. And I wish you all the very best.
Well, it's always interesting to listen to you. You have to say you get our callers hot under the collar, who many of them want to speak to you directly. Next time you're in town, I'm going to get you to come here and do a phone in. That's our very own Prof. JC, Professor John Christopher Buer at White House, correspondent at